Hi, this is John with John's Workshop, and welcome back to another episode on the 2008 Mercedes GL550. I'll tell you, this project is the one that just keeps on giving. So here's what happened. I was driving it a little bit just to work out the bugs and make sure everything was going to be okay, and I was on my way to work, and just about a half a mile from the house, all of a sudden it starts to pull to the left, and I get an aromatic warning in the dash. I got out of the car and I could hear hissing from right under here, and I knew exactly what that was. The airbag, the strut here, had got a hole in it. So turned around, came back, and ordered some new struts. And so this video, I'm going to show you how I replaced the two front struts in the GL550. Here's an opportunity to try out my new impact wrench. Look at this thing. So I got a 24mm socket on here, and gonna see if we can get this nut off here. Okay, here we go. Wow. That is not coming off just yet. I went and got a 6-point 24mm impact socket. I wasn't sure about the quality of the other one, so I'm gonna give this a try. Okay, here we go. Let's see what happens here. Wow, it still did not move. My next approach is to use this Dremel cutting blade here and try to cut and split the nut. Now there's a cut in the nut. I don't know exactly how far I got in there, but hopefully far enough. Now when I get on it, maybe that will allow some of that penetrating oil to get in there and get that loosened up. There's what it looks like now. It did shift around a little bit. Really not able to get this nut off yet, so I'm going to just cut another slot. After making a number of cuts, I'm just now starting to get a little bit of movement of the nut on the bolt. And finally, it came loose. So here's what the nut looks like. Guess I'm getting another one of those. I had a bunch of cuts in there, finally relieving enough to be able to get that thing broken off. So this nut came right off. This is just a shot to show the wiring routing here, so we can get this all back together the same when we're done. So with this loose, and you can see I can kind of like rotate this back a little bit to get a little bit better access here. You can see I've been having troubles right there. That guy is super stubborn. So the next step is to try to get that nut off of there. So this is what this looks like. I kind of loosened this up. There you can see this guy was right here. So we'll grab this one for the new strut. Well, after a lot of pounding, it looks like I might have gotten a start at splitting that nut. Up above, I removed this nut, and there's one left holding the strut here, and I've also removed the airline, which was in here. So below, I had to remove the fender liner here because this connector's way back up in here. You really can't get to it by kind of prying that back. The best thing is just to remove it. And so here's the connector that comes out with the shock. This little piece here is kind of put in here, and then here's this part that stays with the car. So this should be completely loose and ready to come out at this point. So just loosening this back up again, and then down here, now I've got this cross bolt. Pull that out. So I'm pulling the cross bolt out of here so I can separate this from the steering arm. I've got the jack supporting the arm just a little bit. Okay, so that cross bolt is out. And now I'm going to lower the jack. See what happens here. Okay, you can see how the cross member is no longer there. We're lowering the arm. Okay, so I'm just loosening the last nut up here, so the strut should drop as soon as this nut's out. It should drop down. There it goes. And now the trick is trying to get this out of here. See, the problem is the axle down here. Not sure if I can get this down low enough to do this without getting that axle out of there. Getting the old strut out of here is a little trickier than you think. I went on YouTube and did a bunch of research, and some people say you got to pull the tie rod end out. Some people say you got to remove the axle and basically take this nut off to give yourself some more room. Some people you have to do both. Some people say you get a huge big pry bar and you just bend this whole thing down to get the clearance to get this out. But what I'm trying here is a ratchet strap. I just went up around the top once I got it down, and then I'm just coming down through here and just picking up around here, and gonna give this a try. I've compressed it, as you can see, a bit, maybe a couple inches or so. And now I'll see if I can maneuver this out of here. Maneuver this kind of as much as I can here. I've got that strap on here. Pick this up about as far as I can go. And voila. Look at that. It's out. So here's the old unit with the strap still on it, and I'm going to have to get the new unit compressed using that same technique to get it back in there. So on the old one that came out, I had the strap tightened up to the point where this is just at about 23 inches from this point here up to this point here. Maybe just a little bit less, maybe 1/8 of an inch less. So plan is I'll have to do the same thing here, and you can see this is at about 24 and say 3/4. So we're gonna have to squish that down with the strap by about almost 2 inches, not quite. And then we should be able to get this back in using the same process. On the top end they have this sticker here where this has got the basically a cover so you don't get any dirt in there. So with the strap, I'm going to try to put this, actually it's a lid from orange juice, to cover that up so I don't end up squishing this. All right, I've got this tightened up, crimped about as much as I can get it. Got to watch out you don't have too much in here, you won't be able to do it. My little thing here that was supposed to protect that kind of got smushed. But it looks like I've at least shortened this thing enough, hopefully, to be able to get it in. All right, so without too much work, I was able to just get that right back in, just like this. So it's all still tight with that strap. My plan is to next undo the strap. So now I've got the strap loose. You can see this is not all the way up there, but the strap comes off, and then we can finish the installation here. So with the cross bolt in here, I just use the jack to raise the A-arm, which then raises the strut all the way up into the tower. And then on the top side, you see the threads come up through here for the studs, and we can put the nuts back on, and a little protective plastic thing actually made it through the strap arrangement. Make sure you get this little piece out of the old connector, because this little guy goes right up in here, and there's a little slot. See that square hole? And that's where that's going to go. That will retain the connector. I've got the routing all back together. So here's the ABS cable, goes through there. This new guy comes back through here and picks up one of these little guys here, and then he goes down here behind, and it comes with one of these little connectors between the two, pops in here, and then goes on up, and then this is where it holds on to that frame there, and then this is pushed in, and it really doesn't click or anything. It's kind of odd, but the old one was the same way. So that's what we got. So electrically, we are reconnected. Most of the stuff down here is installed. I still do need to get a replacement nut there. As you can see, that one's pretty powered up, but everything is ready for the fender liner to get installed. This is how I'm pumping up that left strut. I'm using this actuation in here where it says F3 is plus, and that is for lift the front left. Of course it can't because it's jacked up, but if you can hear that when I push that, yeah, there we go. We're pressurizing it by doing this. So I'm reading the pressure in the front right strut, and it doesn't have a leak, and jacked up off the ground it's at 5.5 bars. So that would tell me that I probably want to increase the pressure on the left one until it is about 5.5 bars. I'm going back to this move towards the calibrated level manually. I get these buttons. Not quite enough yet. Okay, so I got the front right up to 3.4 bars. I got up to 5.1 bars. That's probably good enough for that side. You empty the front right, so I'm going to hit F6 to try to lower that side, even though it really isn't going to lower. In this technique, the lowest I could get the pressure in that right front strut is 1.4 bar. It just doesn't go below that, so the rest of the pressure we'll just have to release when we loosen up that nut. Got replacement nuts from the dealer, actually 4 of these. Even with the Mercedes Club discount, were like $30, but got to use the right ones, and these have this locking feature in here, which is, I just think it's the threads are cut a little bit differently here. So I want to put these back on correctly and use the correct torques to put those back on. Mercedes has some odd torque specs. So for this bolt, that upper ball joint, that is 15 foot-pounds, and then turn it 90 degrees. Just use this torque wrench to get 15 foot-pounds. And now I need to turn it to 90 degrees. So what I'm going to do is turn it a flat and a half, and that'll be 90 degrees. I just used a Sharpie here to indicate where the nut is now, and then I have to turn it a full flat and then a half a flat. So there's a full flat, so my little mark is now in the next flat. Now I just have to go to the point here, and then that's the 90 degrees. Okay, there, I went ahead and moved it, and I might have gone a little bit more than 90 degrees, but it didn't feel all that bad, so I feel like this is well torqued. So on the right side, I couldn't really drain more than that 1.6 bars or whatever that was, so I'm just loosening this nut, hoping that the pressure will, there it goes, come out. Here's the cable arrangement on the right-hand side. I've already released this, just so you can see where these guys are going here. There's 2 of them on this side now because we have a brake pad wear sensor as well as the ABS. And then the third one here, of course, is the adaptive damping system shock valve control. But that's how the wires are routed, because it's be important putting it back together to make sure we get them correctly in there. There they are. Got the ball joint puller on the top here. And the nut is loose. You can see I've got it backed off here and actually put it back the other way. Give a little bit more of a flat surface to push on with the puller here. So cranking up on the puller. Oh, there it goes. It wasn't bad at all. Oh, I've got the cross bolt out. You can see it's no longer in there, and I was able to lower this just a little bit, and that gives better access over here. So I may be able to get the impact driver on here. On the other side, I ended up doing a bunch of cutting, and that took a long time. So I'm going to see if I can use the impact to get that guy off. The impact loosened it, and now I'm able to actually get it out by hand. Got to hold the centerpiece there with Torx, and then the 21mm socket to get the nut. And the ratchet strap hooked up here. It's can just kind of reach up here, and I get it inside the two bolts up there. So it's inside the two bolts there, and then got it coming back down here. I'm just hooking the two hooks together here, like that. So maybe it's something like that. You can see in the back there. And then the strap comes back down underneath, and then here it is coming back up to the ratchet strap. All right, so now I've got the ratchet pulled up, strap pulled up to the ratchet, and then I'm going to start ratcheting it here. See, we're pulling that down. So I'm going to pull it down a little bit here and then just see if I've got enough clearance or not to get it out. Pull a little bit more. All right, so now that I've got the strap on there, I can lift this up, and there it goes right over the axle, and comes right out like that, including the cable. The ratchet strap still on there, and I'm just measuring the distance up here, and it looks like it's about 23 inches, which is pretty close to what the last one was. So when I get the new strut, I'm going to go ahead and compress it to that 23 inches because I know I can get it in and out at that length. On this strut, I just pulled the little protective thing out of there. I put a piece of tape on there because I really want this strap to go right over the middle of this, and that's kind of in the way. And this should work better than my last attempt, which was just that orange juice container. So now, I'm going to cinch this down until we're at the 22 inches, 23 inches. A little bit more to go. Okay, just a little bit more. Alright, that's just under 23. So we should be able to get this fit right back in there. Alright. There we go, put it back in. There, that was the hard part right there. Getting it up over the axle. Alright. There's that part of the ratchet strap. And then this part just comes out under here. Point, I've got pressure in both of the air springs, and I'm actually holding up the A-arm there with a jack stand at about the same height as the wheel would put it. And so now I'm going to use the car's own air suspension rise feature to pressurize this up and get the car up higher. That's what they said, is let it lift itself off. So we'll see how that works. After running for a little while, it's pumped up and it's all the way at the raised level here. See the airbag up there. Got to pull that little blue thing off here. But this is hopefully giving me room to get in here and torque the big bolt there. On this one, I still also need to torque this one because it seems to be slipping a little bit and I have to retain the center shaft. Here are the torque specs. So the dome nuts at the very top, there's 3 of them. They go to 50 Newton meters, which is 37 foot-pounds. The sway bar link to the bottom of the air strut, they've got you doing 100 Newton meters or 74 foot-pounds, and then you loosen by like 180 degrees. Then 120, which is 88 foot-pounds, and then another 45 degrees. So you got to do some estimating of angles, which is what I'm going to be doing here. Shock fork, so that's the big one, 195 foot-pounds. And then the upper ball joint is only 15, but then you turn it 90. So that's like a flat and a half on the nut there. Those are the torque specs. Large fork nut here has to be tightened to 195 foot-pounds. So here's the arrangement I've got, at least on the right-hand side. You can see there the holder, and then here I've got my torque wrench, and got it supported there, and so I'm working on cranking that up to 195 foot-pounds. The car is sitting at the normal suspension height, and that's the whole idea here, is that when you tighten that fork, you want that bushing to be, the one that's in the rubber there, to be at its normal position and not cranked one way or the other. On the left side, I was able to get the torque wrench in here. It's a little less convenient. Got my holder, breaker bar down there, but I was able to get it to the 195. So luckily, I've got a pretty long arm on my torque wrench, but definitely got that one torqued down. Another successful repair. Car is back in running order. We'll see what we're going to tackle next. But there you can see, brand new air struts seem to be working just fine. Thanks for watching. Hope that was helpful. Stay tuned for the next video where I look into some additional rainwater leaks for where water was getting into the car.